So this week, Tucker Carlson threw a wrench in the January 6th committee narrative. Chuck Schumer responded, calling for the censorship of Tucker Carlson's show, and Tucker fires back. We're going to jump into all this in just 1 second. You guys, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please consider joining my locals community over at jamesklug.locals.com. I'll put a link down below. It's free with the option of contributing monthly for as little as 1 cup of coffee per month. I greatly encourage you guys to join and support monthly just to keep this channel around, keep us making more videos. Thank you all so much that have already joined. I believe we have about 14 members. We're trying to get to 20 monthly members. Please consider becoming one. Hit that link down below, jamesklug.locals.com. Let's jump into this. So we have an article here from the Daily Caller. Tucker Carlson fires back at Senator Schumer's call for censorship over unearthed January 6th footage. So we're going to talk briefly about the unearthed January 6th footage. I'm just going to give a couple examples of it really quick because I'm pretty sure most of you have already seen it, but it was revolving around the QAnon shaman, Officer Brian Sicknick, and many other people. We'll play a little bit of what they played. I believe March 6th, Tucker released this footage exposing and really blowing up a lot of narratives just in one day of releasing footage.
The so-called QAnon shaman. At one point, they even tried to open locked doors on Chansley's behalf. Chansley was sentenced to 4 years in prison for his crimes in the Capitol on January 6th. And the video we showed you last night raises the obvious question, why? On what grounds? The video we showed you last night also showed that Officer Brian Sicknick was not beaten to death with a fire extinguisher by protesters on January 6th, as the media and Liz Cheney so often claimed. The video shows Sicknick walking around the building, apparently in good health, after he was supposedly killed. We showed you that video. You can make of it what you will. We also showed you a video that proves Ray Epps, the mysterious protester who encouraged others to breach the Capitol, lied to the January 6th committee about where he was on that day.
Big shocker. Okay, so let's start with the QAnon shaman. This guy, aside from having the funniest looking costume, I've actually never seen him before. I know people that have interviewed him, and really he's just some hardcore, like, vegan extremist dude that's super peaceful. He's just a weird guy. Just an odd guy all around. He's been going to protests for years. He's done tons of interviews with people around DC area. But this footage shows that this guy that was sentenced 4 years in prison, literally just getting a casual stroll around the entire Capitol with 2 police officers hanging out with him. Capitol police officers, just strolling around. He got sentenced 4 years for his Capitol tour. You have another narrative exploded. Brian Sicknick, who they've been leveraging his dead body to promote their agenda, walking around the Capitol, seemingly
That video you can make of
looking fine at that time, after he was attacked by January 6ers and supposedly beaten to death. That's the narrative that everyone's heard. Everyone's heard that narrative. They've been hammering down on it for 2 years. I go talk to somebody in the street, and they're like, oh, well, they killed a Capitol police officer. They beat him to death. I've heard it from 50 people. Well, that narrative exploded. So we have Chuck Schumer that didn't like seeing this narrative torn apart. Didn't like seeing somebody that was looking at this footage other than the seriously partisan January 6th committee. And Chuck responds.
Last night, millions of Americans tuned in to one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen on cable television. Fox News host Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection. I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Mr. Carlson did last night. I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such disdain.
See, he manipulated them by showing the American people footage that was withheld by the January 6th committee and Democrats. He manipulated them by giving them more context with these situations. He manipulated them by showing them more footage so they could decide for themselves on, not being pushed a narrative, but being given more footage to decide what they think is the truth here. I mean, even Tucker Carlson said it himself. You can draw the conclusion however you'd like. We're showing you the footage here. Because the January 6th committee pushed a certain narrative that's being completely unraveled by just a 1 hour show on cable TV. Now, that's not to excuse... Look, you guys, I was at January 6th reporting. At the time, I was with Newsmax. I was with Newsmax for a little under a year. And, nobody's saying that there was no violence on January 6th. But you can still call out lies. Again, the QAnon shaman was given 4 years in prison for a peaceful tour around the Capitol. He wasn't beating up police officers. In fact, there's even footage of him praying for the Capitol police officers when he's inside the Capitol. Like I said, I was there myself. I didn't go inside, but I was outside, and I can tell you for a fact, I saw people being aggressive police officers. I saw people, I believe, I don't know if I saw many people hitting police officers, but, you see people being aggressive around police officers, shouting at them, whatever it may be. But you could also look to your right, and 10 feet away, there would be a group of grandmas praying in a circle. I'm not even joking, I saw that. It was unlike any other, I guess, riot I've ever seen. You wouldn't see that at a BLM riot. There would just be chaos everywhere around you. That's how it was. You wouldn't look to your left at a BLM riot and see a Walgreens being looted, and then look to your right and see a bunch of grandmas praying. It just wasn't a thing. But this isn't the narrative that the January 6th committee wants to paint. They don't want it to be nuanced. That day was the darkest day in American history, worse than 9/11, and they need to conserve that narrative to grab onto power. They didn't show a balanced take of January 6th. That was the point of Kevin McCarthy giving Tucker Carlson this footage to go through, to actually give the American people another side that may be either overlooked or completely ignored for the base of keeping a particular narrative that the left wing desires. So, Chuck Schumer goes on calling for the censorship of Tucker Carlson. Let's check that out.
Demanded that our bosses pull this show off the air.
He's going to come back tonight with another segment. Fox News should tell him not to. Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, tell Carlson not to run a second segment of lies. I urge Fox News to order Carlson to cease propagating the big lie on his network and to level with their viewers about the truth behind the efforts to mislead the public. Conduct like theirs is just asking for another January 6th.
How dare you mislead the public for showing more information? Now, we have a U.S. senator here that's calling to shut down a cable TV show. So that's just on the face is obviously problematic. I will say, even if they are successful in censoring Tucker Carlson, which he may actually not talk about January 6th tonight. That's rumored. He may not talk about January 6th tonight. Chuck Schumer may be successful in this demand. But let's set that aside. Is this not the biggest advertisement to watch Tucker Carlson's show, like, all year? This is free marketing, Chuck Schumer. Free marketing. So I'm sure I'll keep you guys posted on what happens with that. It would be unfortunate if Tucker actually gives in and decides not to talk about January 6th. So people asked Kevin McCarthy if he regrets giving this footage to Tucker and his team. McCarthy, thankfully, ends up defending Tucker Carlson. Here's an exchange posted by Jack Posobiec on Twitter of a CNN reporter talking to McCarthy about this.
Do you regret giving him this footage so he could whitewash the events of that day?
No, I said at the very beginning, transparency. And so what I wanted to produce for everybody is exactly what I said, that people could actually look at it and see what's gone on that day. So.
But why, Mr. Speaker,
Would you agree with this
portrayal of what happened that day?
Look, each person can come up with their own conclusion, but what I just wanted to make sure is I had transparency.
Do you believe
because I know in CNN, I mean, I had here where you guys actually broke where we were. This was a secret location, Fort McClare. I don't know if you got concerned by that. I don't even know from point of view of security if we could ever be taken there again. But when you broke that at CNN, that was a real concern to a lot of people.
In the name of transparency, seems pretty reasonable. Seems pretty reasonable. It's funny how he's whitewashing what happened that day by just completely blowing up narratives from Democrats. You know, Sicknick was beaten to death by MAGA Republicans. He's walking around the Capitol. In what way is that whitewashing the events of the day? All you're doing is exposing lies. Speaking of lies, one more thing that Tucker actually did a great job highlighting was the story about Tarek Johnson, the Capitol police officer that ended up having to resign, lost his pension, for actually doing an amazing job at the Capitol on January 6th, even though his superiors completely failed in every way, shape, and form.
Breach occurred was near where the members of Congress would be locked in. We initiated a lockdown, so that means the chamber doors on the Senate side and the House side were locked. So that means the members of Congress would be safe inside those locked rooms.
Yes.
So I ran over to the House side first to make sure that those doors were locked. Then I ran over to the Senate side to make sure those doors were locked. So I asked over the radio, and I say something to the effect that we need direction. We have hundreds of people inside of the building. What do you want us to do? We need some direction. I heard no response. No response. So, you know, at that particular time.
How could nobody respond?
Nobody responded.
At some point, you put on a MAGA hat.
So nobody responded. Who was his superior? Well, Yogananda, and I'm probably butchering that, Yogananda Pittman was the person that was in charge that day, or one of the people that was in charge that day, that pretty much made sure that the Capitol police officers weren't prepared for this at all. They had the information that there was something going on that day, and they were not prepared at all. 2 days after January 6th, she got promoted by Nancy Pelosi. Johnson here ended up having to resign and lost his pension because he put on a MAGA hat during January 6th that somebody handed to him that he thought would keep him safe during his work. This is a Biden supporter. And he thought it would keep him safe during his work that day when he was going to get other officers and whatnot to blend in with the crowd to make sure that people did not bug him. For his own safety, he put it on. And the media jumped on him like a bunch of hyenas. Leadership failed that day. He did an amazing job at doing his job, and he got destroyed for it. Now, Tucker Carlson invited Chuck Schumer to talk about all these stories on his show, and Chuck Schumer responded saying, "I was invited on Tucker Carlson's show. I will agree to go on after Tucker Carlson admits to his viewers live on air that he has been lying to them about the 2020 elections and what happened on January 6th. If he's lying, why don't you disprove him? If he's lying about it, disprove him. That's all you have to do. Put out a tweet disproving what Tucker was talking about on his show. That's it. They never do that, do they?" Liz Wheeler responds saying, "As a U.S. Senator, you called for a journalist to be censored because he exposed your lies about January 6th. It wasn't a deadly insurrection. Officer Sicknick wasn't murdered. Ray Epps lied under oath. No wonder 61% of Americans think January 6th was staged by feds. You should be ashamed." I mean, that's a good point, isn't it? Lie after lie after lie after lie. You even have with Tarek Johnson. You know, even that's suspicious. The Capitol Police weren't prepared, and the lady at the top that ignored him completely blew him off. She gets promoted 2 days after January 6th. He ends up losing his job. Lie after lie after lie. People eventually start to ask questions. Kyle Becker takes it to Twitter to say, "Can someone explain how you go through 44,000 hours of video footage to refute state-run media lies for a 1-hour show and it isn't cherry-picked?" Right, they're saying Tucker cherry-picked this footage. It's like, well, yeah, you guys have been running for the January 6th committee ran for over 2 years, hammering down on the same points, giving one side of the story. And quite frankly, that's great. I want both sides, and I think we all should want both sides. So you can watch both sides and draw your conclusion. We haven't been given that opportunity. So they're saying Tucker Carlson cherry pick stuff. Kyle Becker says, how could you not do that and cherry pick? He goes on to say, Tucker has a 1-hour primetime show. The J6 committee, hacks, had hundreds of researchers and nearly 2 years to put out a balanced view of the Capitol riots. What's their excuse for cherry-picked footage? Excellent point, Kyle Becker. Excellent point. We have a tweet here from, I'm sorry, Mark, I'm gonna botch your last name. Mark Lobliner. I'm so sorry. Mark does a lot of great work, and he tweets out saying, I don't get how the left is claiming that Tucker showing video proof of stuff that happened January 6th is a bad thing. Democrats saying he's airing lies. I still think J6 was stupid to attend, but failed to follow where transparency is anti-American. Good question, Mark. Lastly, we'll finish off with Kurt here. I thought this was an interesting take. He retweeted this video from Greg Price, tweeting out the segment from Tucker Carlson's show. Kurt says, I hate Trump, so I'm neutral on the January 6th thing. From my perspective, it looks like the J6 committee was willing to unjustly destroy regular people's lives in order to get Trump. Am I missing something? I wonder how many people have this take after seeing this footage. And it took this long to get the American people this footage of the QAnon shaman, basically a walking meme, just casually strolling through the Capitol with 2 Capitol police officers. Let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that bell notification button so you're notified next time I post. I'll catch you guys next time.